a by-election arose in Mbeere North. Hundreds of millions, it is rumored 300 to 400 million was dedicated to the by-election there. When you know that the cost of building a classroom in Kenya is between $1 million and $1.2 million. So those would have been 300 classrooms. But they are not important. What was important was a by-election between Wamudhende from UDA and Newton Karish from DP. And that's where government took resources.
Hey there and welcome to Fanya Mambo Africa and Happy New Year 2026. I hope you've started your year on a high note. Fanya Mambo.
Yeah, how are you?
I'm well. Happy New Year.
A very happy New Year to you.
It's so good to see you in this new year and hope the energy,
tumekuja na t-shirt.
No,
energy.
Ama you've decided you're hitting the gym. Now the new look.
It's been a while. The gym, I think I last saw the gym in December 2024. So it's been a whole year. I've not been to the gym, but it is what it is.
Is it part of your solutions? We're beginning the year.
Maybe one of the resolutions this year is to exercise more. But do I have a choice? There'll be a lot of campaigns going on in 2026. So itakuwa ni kimbi ya siasa.
Ama you've overeaten the chapatis over the...
Now who does wheat
2
anymore?
weeks.
They are when you reach fourth floor, you stop doing wheat now.
Allah.
You reduce significantly on the amount of wheat you do.
Okay.
Yeah.
How has your year begun though? How do you feel? How are you feeling about the
First
beginning?
It's a happy thing to know that we are lucky to be amongst those who've been chosen to come into 2026.
Yes.
Don't take that for granted. Number two, it means that if God has given you today, it's called present because it's a present. It's a gift. And so you need to show appreciation for the gift, present. And you need to do something with the present. You need to do something different. You need to fight towards improving your life and the lives of others. So we are coming into this from that background, saying that now that God has brought us this far, what are those things we are going to do to make our lives and those of our loved ones even better, and our neighbors as well? So
for us here at the Alfa House, of course, we're super excited. We've had conversations for 2 years now. We're clocking, this is the third year we're having these conversations. And as we go, of course, now that Kenya is gearing towards an election next year, these conversations can only get better, become more alive in our lives because everyone has to do their civic duty of civic education in whatever aspect of their lives, yeah?
Yes.
And now for you, as you begin the year, what are you looking forward to in terms of the political space of Kenya? Because, it's even in the New Year speech, politics was touched. What's your expectation?
First is I'm looking forward to more youth involvement. And when I say this, I am tired of seeing young people being used to throw stones, to go to political rallies, to being mobilized, put on lorries, put in buses, put in vehicles, wearing t-shirts, riding motorbikes. We are tired. So young people, 2026, moving into 2027, we want to see more people saying, I am going for MCA, I am going for MP, senator, governor, whatever position you feel that you can serve your people in that capacity. Secondly, there will obviously be a new voters drive. We are looking forward to seeing young people now saying, I have registered. Not I will register, not I'm going tomorrow. They are saying, this is my voter's card. I have registered. I will be a voter. That's what we are looking for in 2026 in terms of young people and politics. And we are looking at a possibility of young people saying, no, thank you. You're being told, tokeni hapa, mwende mpige wale wana, when you hear some politicians saying, mimi ni Fanya Mambo, niko na shida na mhesh fulani, and then mulime jeshi yake. So young people are here beating up members of their own constituency because this member of parliament to be has a problem with the other member of parliament who either is or is going to be also vying for the same position. So you find the people who bear the injuries, the people who shed blood, the people who carry the pain are the young people, yet it's not their fight.
Yeah.
So young people, I want us to introduce something new and to tell members of parliament, kama uko na shida na yule, tuwapeleke kuna kiwanja. Mulimane nyinyi wawili mangumi, muheshimiane. But why am I fighting your fight? Why am I carrying a panga? And the guy I'm beating is not even the guy you don't want.
Yeah.
It's his troops. It's nonsense. So young people need to remove this and remove themselves from the equation in 2026, 2027 and say, siwezi kupigia kura na nikupigie mtu. Wewe chagua kitu moja.
Yeah, like that.
Nitakupigia kura, but sitakupigia mtu. Wewe jipiganie vita zako. If there are any physical fights to be fought in 2026 and 2027, sisi kama vijana tutawapigia kura na tutasimama kupigiwa kura. Lakini hatuwezi wapigia kura na tuwapigie watu. No, that's not going to happen.
And it should never be happening anyway.
Yes.
But you've spoken about young people, and I'm looking at it. In 2024, 2025, we had young people who actually were coming out and saying they would want to. We even had Morara Kebaso, who actually wanted to be president at some point, dropped along the way. We had Kasmuel, who was dissolved in the ODM party. I mean, it's a good thing when you join parties. But then there was a lot of... would I call it hate or calling out by fellow young people, and somehow they don't look like that they're on the same cause. They're still maybe in the spaces, but not on the same cause. How do we as young people then appreciate the other young people who want to be in leadership, and how do we sieve them through?
Young people, please look at my face. I want to tell you something. A political party is like a tree that is planted. And this tree begins to germinate. It acquires roots. That's why you hear of grassroots. And as it grows, it acquires branches. That's why you hear it has got party offices in different places. As the same tree grows, it starts getting leaves. You hear beyond the branches, we have officials of the party occupying various positions. I heard ODM the other day say they have, I don't know, was it 14,000 people within the various party offices, because you have a farmers representative, a women representative, from the ward level all the way. So a tree will have roots. It will have the stem. It will have branches. It will have it will have now fruits. The fruits of the political parties now, they have MCAs. They have MPs, they have governors, they have senators, they can even have a president. And the political party, being a tree, even does provide shade to those who sit underneath it, and those who seek it, and those who come to it. And it plays a part in even balancing the ecosystem, because it is a tree. Now, an independent candidate is compared to an electrical post, kama ile ya Kenya Power, that stands on its own. It has no roots, has no branches, has no leaves, has no trees, just transmits power. You stand alone like an electric post. I say this because unless it has become impossible for you to get a ticket in a political party, it would be good to be part of a political party. Right now, government owes some political party billions of money in what is now political parties funding. When I saw what was happening in Bere, and I saw we in DCP, and the people in DP, and the people in Wiper, and they met, and voluntarily, I saw Wiper say, is there anything we can do as Wiper? And voluntarily, some members of parliament contributed what they could. And friends of the party. And so did DCP, and so did every other party, because they wanted to help what they feel is one of their own. When you belong to a political party like it's happening in ODM, it was happening when they were having a by-election in Kasipul. The party brings its own resources.
Yes.
And when the party's accounts don't have money, they call elected MCAs, MPs, governors, senators, and tell them, can you raise something small? Because one person within the party is like a member of the family who needs the help of the family. They come for you. Young people, you have no idea how immensely important it is to be a member of a political party. You are part of a network that feels like they own you, that feels like, did you know that winning a seat for a political party, the seat you are campaigning for, you as a young person, did you know that for the political party, that seat is perhaps more important to them than you? They give blood, they give sweat, they give tears, they burn the midnight oil, they come up with strategies, they walk, they provide vehicles, they provide cups, they provide everything. If you remember and look at what had happened in Mbeere North when there was a by-election, you saw how UDA came. I don't like the party, but they brought branded merchandise, they brought money, they brought vehicles, they brought everything, because that seat means a lot to a party. My appeal to young people is stop fantasizing and thinking that parties are a joke. If you can, please join a party. If you can't, form one if you think it's easy to run one. But join a party if you can. And work from within a party. Mm-hmm. You will look like one of the leaves, one of the branches, one of the fruits, one of the roots in a political party. You are part of an interdependent ecosystem. Otherwise utakuwa kikiingia stima unasimama uko peke yako.
Okay. It's very interesting, and actually it's a good thing for people to join parties on that matter. But now when you look at the way political parties are run in Kenya, we can mention all of them. Even your party DCP, or is it ODM? And really none of them fully follows what the law says about party and party structures. How best then, maybe for this year, because this is a very critical year for Kenya. It's the year before elections. How best do we fix these political parties?
A fruit is as good as the tree that carries it. If you plant a terrible tree, if you have a terrible seed and it gives you a tree, and that tree will give you terrible fruits. And that's why I keep telling people, you cannot clean political parties by looking at them from outside and saying, hey, they are dirty, oh, they are ugly. No. There has to be an implosion of the right people into political parties. We have to get to a point where we say, okay, ODM is not clean, DCP is not clean, Wiper is not clean, but who will clean them? The problem we've had with these self-righteous people is that they usually sit aside and start talking about the sins of other people will not take you to heaven. That because that one is a sinner, me, I'll go to heaven. No. It is your righteousness that will take you to heaven. So instead of us sitting and pointing out at how badly political parties are run, and by the way, some of them have got morons at the helm.
Yeah.
Because the morals had they had the audacity to go and form parties and run parties. The saints decided, oh, politics is dirty, it's for dirty people, I won't go in. So the dirty people are leading the countries.
So it's the audacity.
Just have the courage to say, wait a minute. Let me tell you. I once sat with someone who told me something very profound. And this is a challenge to the business community and to those people who feel that they want Kenya to change. He told me that these people who are claimed to be devil worshippers sometimes meet and sometimes say, what is our agenda? And then they agree. And they say, is it possible for us to have a candidate in parliament, a person who will be supporting our agenda as devil worshippers. The people of a society that doesn't like us mentioning them so much, who have queer habits. And those people have met. And they are saying now, we want someone who can go to parliament and start passing laws that are saying we shouldn't have toilets for male, female, and so on and so forth. Even the drug dealers in this country are having meetings and saying, is it possible for us, to look for a terrible creature, a person who believes in drug trade, and just sponsor one to parliament so that when decisions are being made about us, we have someone who can tell us, at least warn us, or at least, defend us in parliament somehow. Now, the so-called saints, Christians, bishops, shop owners, hardware owners, hardworking Kenyans, matatu owners, have not decided that they need to have a meeting and at least sponsor one person they think who espouses their ideals to go to parliament. I mean, come on.
That's where we go wrong.
Can you imagine devil worshippers sitting and saying, we want one of our own in parliament so that our agenda is in parliament? Na nyinyi munajifanya watu wazuri, you've not decided that you can. Can you imagine you run a big business, a wholesale shop, hardware, several matatus in a specific constituency, and you are not invested in who becomes your member of parliament? I think you're a mad person. If you have a business going on in Kariobangi, in Karioko, in Dagoretti, in Muthaiga, in Kileleshwa, you should be very worried about who will become your MCA.
True.
And who shall become your MP. And the business communities need to start meeting and saying, wait a minute. If finance bill itaenda tena kupitishwa na hooligans, I mean, let us get immensely immersed in the politics of Kenya now moving forward. And saying, sisi tumemit. Chama za wamama, muko na hii chama, na hii chama, na hii chama. Have all of them come together and decide, wait, tumekuwa tukichanga. Who is this who shall bring the table banking agenda in bunge on behalf of all chamas? And anybody who is in a chama, muulizane nyi wote, museme bas, tuko na MP wetu wa chamas. Yeah. So let us determine the look of parliament by taking our interests to parliament, the way drug dealers do. Drug dealers don't like parliament that does not have their people.
So basically, we all have to be active citizens this year.
Yes, we have to be.
Because if you fail, then if you don't plan, as they say, you plan to fail. Because they will elect for you who fits their agenda.
Well.
Okay. Now, towards the end of last year, we had by-elections that happened in Kenya. We saw how the results came in and all that. But for me, what I look at is the whole idea with the United Opposition versus the government and what has been going on. And the president has on several occasions said the opposition has no agenda. And on the other hand, the opposition keeps saying our agenda is Ruto must go. And now citizens are questioning, is it just a slogan that you have, or what different should we entrust you with? If we do not know what you represent, how do we follow the opposition simply because they are saying Ruto must go?
The opposition has made it clear that we have an agenda. Our agenda, I don't know why the president does not hear what we tell him. Our agenda number one is restoration. When we are saying Ruto must go, is because you cannot restore SHA, we cannot restore NHIF from SHA if Ruto is still president. Before we do marvelous things, we want to restore. That we move from this terrible outfit called SHA. We go back to NHIF and fix whatever small problems that existed in HIF. Number two, the university funding model is not working, but HELB was working. When we take over the reins of leadership as the United Opposition, we want to go back first to HELB, because HELB was working. You go first to the last known address. If you get lost in Nairobi and you have no idea, for some people who came to Nairobi when they were old, they used to go back to a place they know, KICC or Hilton. And then you take, some people is a fear center.
Yeah, the green.
The green one. So then you take your bearing from there. So restoration, just go back to help. Higher. They came and they brought a stupid system of saying they're not giving capitation to high schools and primary schools. And we are saying, wherever the money was coming from for capitation to schools, let us first give that back so that we cushion our parents from the heavy burden they're carrying right now. So our main agenda right now is to restore, and to restore the dignity of the payslip. They have raided the payslip so much, when you look at it, it's no longer a payslip. It's a pain slip. So to restore the dignity of the payslip. So the United Opposition is saying you cannot do these things when William Ruto is president. So when we tell you the biggest agenda is Ruto must go, is because Ruto is a representation of the oppression that our people are going through right now. So our principal agenda as a United Opposition is restoration. The only thing we are not able to restore right now is the lives that have been lost under this administration, especially the lives of young people. But those things that we can restore, those things that we can make work. For example, somebody wants to see a giraffe in Masai Mara. Why is that money coming to eCitizen? What's the relationship? There are things we've been able to do that don't make sense, just so that we can consolidate all our money and steal it in one easy go. So the principal agenda of the United Opposition, and William Ruto needs to know, is restoration.
Okay. Do you think the president is sort of uncomfortable with campaigning against a slogan? Because, with the slogans, there's no particular person to attack.
No.
So for him, opposition being using slogans that are against him, yet for him, he can't use a slogan because you have, 5 people, and all of them pushing one slogan, then it's hard for him.
No, what he wanted, he wants us to move, to start discussing things like houses, things like electricity, things like water, so that we can dilute the conversation. The truth is, Kenyans are united in not wanting William Ruto to be president. And he knows as long as we go into this election, he wants to shape what we say. So he's trying to tell Kenyans we don't have an agenda. And we don't want to fall to his trap of him shaping what we, because he knows the direction we have taken is dangerous for him. It means he goes home. Because it's like welding. Why welding succeeds is because you don't weld here and here and here and here. If you want to weld a joint, all your energy and focus is on that joint. You keep welding there until inashikana inakuwa joint. And that's what we are doing. So what William Ruto wants is we were welding here. And he wants us to change our focus and move the welding bit from here to start taking electricity house. No. We are focused. William Ruto must go. Even if Kenyans want to hear agenda, we shall be telling agenda number 1 to number 10, William Ruto must go. Then we can start on agenda number 11, restoration. And then now we can talk about all those other new things.
Okay. I'll just throw a spanner. What if he doesn't go?
What do you mean, what if he doesn't go?
Elections are done and he wins.
How?
People vote.
Which ones? You see, William
Kenyans,
Ruto...
They are not strangers, it's Kenyans who vote.
William Ruto is vying against payslip holders. Those ones will not vote for him. William Ruto is vying against anybody who has encountered SHA. Anybody who has tasted SHA is not going to vote for him. Anybody who has tasted university funding model will not vote for him. We have 14 million children, both in primary and high school. High school about 4 million, primary school 10 million. Anybody who's tasted the current lack of capitation to school, that is basically the parents of 14 million children, will not vote for William Ruto. Anybody who knows what happened to Albert Ojwang will not vote for William Ruto. Anybody who saw that we lost 200 Gen Zs in demonstrations and up to date we don't know where they are, will not vote for William Ruto. Anybody who understands what abduction means will not vote for William Ruto. Now, out of the Kenyans you know, show me one who has not encountered the pain of the things I have mentioned. Especially SHA, and education. That's why I keep telling Kenyans, if William Ruto vies alone, he'll be number 2. And you people don't understand.
That's
If he vies alone, he'll be number 2.
But I like the confidence you have, because you see, the same confidence you speak with is the same one he speaks with. And that's the beauty of politics anyway.
William Ruto does not speak with confidence. Can you imagine a person telling you he has confidence of being re-elected, going to Baringo to beg Gideon Moi not to field a candidate or not to offer himself for Baringo? If he's afraid of losing Baringo, then anakwambia ati ako na kura Western. Come on. I mean, Kenyans, open your eyes.
How sure are we that it's maybe it's Gideon who went looking for him?
No, it's not what people say. It is what they do that counts.
Okay.
William Ruto comes and says, tuko na Western. Then Farouk Kibet does not leave Malava. Throughout the by-elections that were happening, Farouk Kibet was always in Malava. He spent all his life in Malava, trying to secure Malava, so that UDA could say that they control the Western region. They say they were in control of things. They spent the chairman of UDA in the whole country to Mbere. And there was nothing else the governor was doing in Mbere other than campaigning for a Mudhende. So let me tell you, as we speak, William Ruto is thoroughly, totally and completely afraid. He was saying he's going to be elected in 2027. Oh, we have Northeastern. Northeastern is ours. We have a lot of votes. When a candidate offered themselves for vying for DCP in Banisa, we all saw the intimidation, the offers, the threats. He had to step down. If UDA was popular in Banisa, they would have let DCP run, would have gotten a run for their money. So someone comes and tells you, oh, UDA is going to be re-elected. The people who are saying UDA is going to be re-elected were so desperate, they had to attend ODM at 20. Just to seek a partnership with ODM, because on their own, they are weak.
So do you think, because the word is there on the street, that William Ruto might be ODM's candidate for president 2027?
Actually, it would be a good thing. Have you ever seen a situation where all the bad fruits are put together themselves in one basket, then you just kick it with one kick? ODM needs to understand one thing. If you start, they say bad company corrupts good morals. ODM is this one party that would have been seen as a progressive party until it starts working with those people who are killing our Gen Zs. So Kenyans will come and say, you people have decided to work together, to oppress us, go together.
Wow. Okay. Very interesting perspective, but we watch to see what happens with ODM. Now, we are still in the first week of January and schools resume next week. You touched on the issue of capitation. Do you think this term in particular we're going to see change? I mean, last year the CS for Education did what they were calling, was it vetting of schools? And we had 50 ghost schools that were receiving money. And up to this moment, no one has been jailed for that. So is this time going to be any different?
2026, we are asking government to first pay the deni that they have for capitation to schools. I know schools whose school buses have now been attached by auctioneers. We know schools that have been taken to court because they've been supplied with beans and cabbages and rice, and they can't pay suppliers. And all because government has not paid capitation to schools. So before they give us promises and noise and nonsense, pay what you owe. Once they pay what they owe, then we can have a conversation about 2026. Let's not pretend we've forgotten that there are schools whose school buses are being auctioned. You go to an auction yard and you find a school bus. How does that make anybody feel? And it's because the school cannot pay. Do they attach the headmaster's car, or what do? They find something that belongs to the school. And then It's a sick place to be.
We're having this conversation in the first week of January. Do you think we will have a different conversation? Schools close in April, somewhere there. By the time we're getting to April, are we going to be on the same, or are your expectations any different? Because this conversation last year went on the whole year and the problem was the same. So have they taken enough lessons from last year
No, they haven't.
You think so?
I'll tell you this. Images emerged last year of schools made of mud in the deputy president's backyard. Oh, the government forgot. It was not important. A by-election arose in Mbeere North. Hundreds of millions, it is rumored 300 to 400 million, was dedicated to the by-election there. When you know that the cost of building a classroom in Kenya is between $1 million and $1.2 million. So those would have been 300 classrooms. But they are not important. What was important was a by-election between Wamudhende from UDA and Newton Karish from DP. And that's where government took resources. What was important was a Malava by-election, where at the same time, hospitals in Kiambu were on strike. Nobody cared about that. But politicians were dancing in the constituencies that had by-elections and the wards that had by-elections. And they were splashing out money. But there was no money for the most critical things. That is where we need to say we lost humanity.
Do you think, because Parliament has a lot of responsibilities and is entitled, even with the budget making process, of course, it's now on by the time we get to June, July cycle. But do you feel like they took their lessons from last year and maybe, is there any hope for this year of Parliament being any better?
You see, these are the same parliamentarians.
Yeah.
Those who were terrible will remain terrible. Those who were genuine will remain genuine. Kenyans, we have an honorable role. Imagine, we are in January 2026. Elections are in 1 year and about 6, 7, 8 months. So start identifying the people we need to retain in parliament, because we have a few good ones.
Yeah.
And the bulk that we need to throw out, and start saying, who are we replacing them with? And it has to be a better character, so that we don't remove an evil person and bring someone twice as evil.
So in the meantime, in the 1 year, say
Scrutiny.
7, 8 months.
Scrutiny. Let us look at people, let us look at their records, let us look at how they run their personal lives, how they run their businesses, how genuine they are, whether they are good people, whether they mean well, before we give them positions.
Okay.
Yeah.
The economy of Kenya, people have been, raising issues and concerns of having not been able to meet. Even now, this month, people are complaining about school fees. December, we saw there were complaints of how bad people were economically. How different do you think this is going to be, and what would the president perhaps and his government do to sort of shift that direction so that people feel the economy without being told?
To start with, relinquish, set free the payslip. Take out some of the unnecessary deductions for the payslip that you introduced when you became president, so that people have got some disposable income to do the things that are important for them. If you ask somebody who is working, like yourself, and you ask them, on your payslip, would you rather buy your daughter a tennis ball or pay for affordable housing? They'll tell you, my son has always wanted a black bow tie and a tennis ball, and he wants to join a karate class. But he can't, because that which I would have spent on it, I'm being told to build a terrible, avoidable house that I'll never even occupy. So to ease the life of Kenyans and to ease the burden that Kenyans are carrying, let us first stop raiding the payslip. Number 2, this country owes a lot of money to suppliers. if we were serious about rebuilding this economy, let us pay some of these suppliers, especially anybody owed below $1 million. Because you have very many people who are owed below $1 million. If you pay them, that money begins to circulate and builds the economy.
Yeah.
So let us pay suppliers. If we were to pay suppliers as a January gift, it would change a lot of things in this country.
Okay. Key also last year, and last year but one, June 25th happened, Saba happened. We lost so many young people. We had a lot of brutality from the police. Do you see it happening this year? Because I am sure young people will do the June 25th again.
Anniversary.
It's memorial, yeah.
I
mean, it's like Mashujaa Day or any other day that our forefathers went through.
The anniversary will happen. That government needs to prepare for. What does not need to happen is the killing. And one of the things that hurts us the most is knowing that in 2025, the government literally sponsored goons to beat up its own children who were demanding for what is rightfully theirs. That is the lowest we saw a government sink. So we are hoping that beyond even doing that, government will not send goons and arm them so that we have people walking around with sticks in demonstrations, whereas our constitution says that we have a right to peacefully and unarmed participate in protests. So the June 2026, when it comes, we are praying that the high-handedness will not be there. And I want to advise government very early in the year, and I had advised
yes,
them last year.
January.
Yes, advised them last year. They didn't hear. You can allow young people to go to the streets and demonstrate, or you can use common sense and say, why don't we have a way to celebrate that day? And if I was the president, I would actually allow them to have an interdenominational prayer service on Uhuru Highway. So that day you're blocking Uhuru Highway. And instead of young people coming and doing anything they want on the streets, you have an interdenominational, and you even provide the candles. You even put up tents on the highway. And you tell people the idea was to cause disruption. Government has sponsored that disruption. We put up tents for you. Yeah. We've put up everything you want. We've told you to choose the pastors you want and the priests you want and the imams you want. And we've told you, come, all gather here. Then we mount screens. We've spoken to the media so that this thing is aired live. And we want you to have a list of all the young people we lost, and we want candles to represent them. And we want to come, and as government, we want to give a wreath or a message or something to each of the families in saying we honor them and we celebrate them and we accept that they lost their lives. And as a country, we are here to say we are united in grief, and we are here to say that we shall do the best we can to ensure that we don't lose young lives again. What has happened is you have killed two birds with one stone. You have allowed young people to come and create a disruption in CBD, but you've also made sure that the noisiest of them are part of the program.
So how then do the families get justice when you do that?
The first thing about getting justice is to feel appreciated. When you plan that interdenominational prayer service and make sure that the family members sit at the front to start with, and if there are any where investigations have happened, that's a good day to report. Come and say, on Mark Masai's case, I saw some people arraigned in court. We arraigned so-and-so in court, and this is how it went. Say, for example, that resulted in a conviction. That would help government. They would come and say, out of the 18 reported cases, 9 are in court, 3 have resulted in conviction. These names are people who have been put in jail for this number of years, and we are working on the others. That inspires hope. So the problem is we have people who don't think.
So let me just think about it. If you go and inspire hope, but then the things that took people to the streets have not been done, even when you do that, have you sorted the problem, or are you just sweeping it, under the carpet as you
They will
look
steal
for
our
means?
money, and then they will weigh our money because they don't even have the time to count it. They put it on a scale and weigh it. I think, as I told you, if this government stops planning evil, doing evil, executing evil, there's a chance that people will not even go to the streets. But as long as people will see the government perpetuating evil, and people think that evil are just those things. When you see a car worth 28 million being driven by someone on our streets, so how does that make you feel? Knowing well that this person is a civil servant and they earn 200 or 300,000. When did they amass enough to buy a car worth 28 million? So those are some of the things we are saying. The display of opulence in a country where people are struggling to fix a meal is one of the things that is causing people to want to say, we are going to the streets.
The young people of Kenya went to the streets 2 years consecutive. The young people of Tanzania, when they did the elections in October, went to the streets. The young people of Mozambique, Morocco, all these went to the streets. And basically it's because they feel the systems are wired in a way to their disadvantage. And then the old guards are still holding on to it and saying, no, we ain't going nowhere. How do these two meet? And is there a hope that we're not going to experience this, say even as Africa, this year?
I think that it's incumbent upon the older generation to start letting go and to start saying, wait a minute, we've held on to this for too long. The young people are trying to take it away from them. And I can tell the young people it's not easy. You have to take it by force.
Yeah.
But also the old people have to start becoming magnanimous enough and to realize you don't need to shed the blood of your own children that you gave back to because you want to cling on to something that you shouldn't be clinging on to at this point in time. So let us respect each other and let us respect the generational differences we have. But it is incumbent upon young people to fight for their space. Tanzania, we saw what happened. Uganda, we saw what is happening. And maybe one thing I would tell Mama Samia Suluhu is that Kinjekitile Ngwale was Tanzanian. And he's the one who told people that he has magical waters, that he sprays on his people. Majimaji rebellion, he sprays on his people. And then the people will be immune to the bullets of the Germans. That time it was under German occupation. Yeah. Did that happen? Were those Kenyans? So Mama Samia Suluhu, as you come to say, ni watu wa nchi jirani. Kinjekitile Ngwale was one of you. Majimaji rebellion was from your own people. And the people who are disturbing you now are descendants of those people. Deal with your people.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other voice that has been critical in Kenya's politics, although since 2024 June, has been quite shaky, is the church. And in 2024, we almost succeeded deplatforming politicians from church and donations. But I think towards the end, we went back and we even saw a president doing donations of even, was it 100 million in some million, AIC? Yeah. Where is the church? Where will the church find its voice back this year, or is it,
the church is a situation where you find someone eating sugar. Then they wipe themselves, they forget a few particles here. Then you ask them, were you eating sugar? No, I was not eating sugar. Then you can see the particles here. Yeah. Unfortunately, some of our churches, and I'm happy the Catholic Church declined some money and even returned some. And I remember there's an independent church that said, ile kitu tunaweza rudisha ni shukrani peke yake. Tuwezi rudisha pesa. Have you known that as a politician, sometimes you walk into a church and they see you and you see them having a conversation and they immediately create a harambe. Hata tulikuwa na mchango ya kuweka roofing pande hii ya kanisa, kuweka tiles, tuko na shida ya... You ask yourself, come on. Kwani what is one human being? Because sometimes even me, I walk in Dagoretti and I just walk into a church. They call you for harambes? Sometimes unakuta hata kadi imerushwa juu ya over the gate. If they knock the gate and there's nobody to pick, those harambe cards are thrown. You find them inside the compound. But you walk into a church, you'd come to worship and you even sit behind. The next thing you hear, hata kuna mheshimiwa ameingia, tulikuwa tunataka kukuambia, tuko na harambe ya kununua gari ya pasta. They create a harambe immediately. that was not supposed to be there. So greed. And sometimes I tend to think that in some, and I need to be in some churches, the qualifications for you to be a pastor is greed. You just has to be a very greedy person to become a pastor in some of these churches. Otherwise, if you're not greedy, you don't qualify. And that must stop. Must stop.
How does the church find its voice back? Because even when the Catholic bishops now speak, because of the many misfortunes that the church has taken Kenyans through, the voice seems to lose its trust.
No, the Catholic bishops don't lose their trust. The church doesn't lose its trust. I'll tell you why. They returned that money and they refused to pick the monies from the government.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. Because we shall always know they've not been bought and they've not been compromised. Na hajadanganywa ati natupesa to a state wakambwa. This is the money that you're going to use.
But they get punished with SHA in their, is it hospitals?
Yes. And what has the Catholic Church done? Again, another beautiful thing. They've come up with Caritas Medical Fund. It's actually called CariMed. Caritas is a bank that is headed by the Catholic Church, if you didn't know. Now, what they've done is the equivalent of SHA. There is CariMed. So when you pay for CariMed, the Catholic Church, remember, runs 33% of the total hospitals we have in this country. Dispensaries from, big hospitals, they have about 49. Then they have dispensaries, then they have clinics, and so on and so forth. So the Catholic Church, if you pay for that medical scheme of theirs, and you fall sick and go to an institution run by Catholic Church, they pay for you everything. So people are even saying, why am I doing SHA? I just need to go to CariMed. You go, you talk to Caritas Microfinance Bank, you tell them I want CariMed. You take it, and then they give you a list of the Catholic hospitals. 33, so basically in 10 hospitals, 33%. So in 100 hospitals, 33 of them are Catholic. So a third. So out of every 3 hospitals you come across, one of them is run by the Catholic Church. So just go to one of them. And in fact, I think they need to come up now with an education fund because they run 31% of the schools in this country. Is
that a solution?
For now, it is. You have a terrible government, so you just look for an alternative. I mean, SHA is a whole. We are putting our monies and we know it's a whole. We've seen the fights between Kibagendi and Duale. We've seen the fights in parliament. We know SHA is a whole that we can't fill with enough money. So we are better off going the other way around. Get into CariMed and go look for Catholic Nini.
Have you been paid by the Catholic Church to come
the Muslims
and advertise
actually, I'm
them?
about to challenge the Muslims. They also run quite a number of them, including the Aga Khans. The Muslims need to come up with a medical fund of their own so that you can go to, I know there's a hospital called Iran. I don't know Aga Khan and all the others.
If that is what we are promoting, then what is the essence of government?
We are promoting
Because
that until
government
William
ought
Ruto
to.
goes. Once he goes, he's brought us this terrible SHA, and we tell him to bring it down, he doesn't. That's why I'm telling you, our agenda is William Ruto must go. But before he goes, we find solutions. People have to have solutions for the next 1.5 years.
Okay, in this solution finding, do you think we're about to experience a cabinet reshuffle because there have been complaints of the different CSAs? I don't know if there are some that have... Actually, do you think there are some that performed or any that performed well?
We are struggling to remember their names. So we don't even care if he reshuffles them.
At least you just mentioned Duale a few minutes ago.
Yeah, if we don't care if he reshuffles them or keeps them. We forget their names most of the time.
Is there a possibility?
Yes, there should be. And unfortunately, he will not do it because of us. He'll do it because of his re-election. Any cabinet reshuffle is going to do with politics, not with delivery of service in mind.
And if that happens, and we've seen what has been going on the political space, and I remember the Nandi Senator Cherargei saying that the ODM members who demanded it's either the president or the deputy, that they should forget, Cherargei said they should forget those two because that seat belongs to Kindiki. So what's the survival rates of the good professor of law? What are the chances?
The good professor of law is watching as this government scoffs at the law, ignores court orders, kills young people, disrespects. Like you saw what was happening in the by-elections. CS Roko, who is a CS, was participating actively. Governor Mbarire, who is using state resources, county government resources, to go and campaign. She was campaigning in Embo. So, and he's a good professor of law. Why? In fact, some of us don't care if he survived or not, because he's not lived up to his calling. Professors in law should have called out wrong when wrong was happening.
But do you really think he will make it as the next running mate for...
No.
No?
No. Unfortunately, 2027, William Ruto will be very keen on numbers. He'll be looking for a deputy who can assure him a significant number of votes from wherever that deputy is going to get the votes. And Kindiki, even his beans program of moving around and giving people beans has not appeared to do much.
Maybe they didn't get to you, but they got to other Kenyans.
You see, his Maharagwe program has not done very well for this nation. When you think about it, I looked at somebody like Dennis Itumbi last year. Somebody who used to say big things about cyberspace, the digital superhighway, I don't know. They were calling them IT hubs. You listened to Dennis Itumbi, you'd have thought that Kenya will actually become Singapore. Then a by-election arose somewhere in Bere, and he was giving people sukuma wiki and tomatoes, as if those people are rabbits. Why are you giving people sukuma wiki like they are rabbits? Then you speak, when you come to Nairobi here, speaking big things and saying highway, internet, digital connectivity, satellite, websites, I don't know, international jobs. Beans. No, in fact, Kindiki is better. You give, cereals you can boil for some time. And they used to consume more charcoal than they were worth, because you get a kilo worth 100, you boil with charcoal worth 200 bob. Then you wonder what is better. You wish you planted them so that they multiply. But now these are sukuma wikis now. In fact, when you cook them, they shrink. And there were 7 leaves. We counted.
You were there counting?
Yeah, you can check what he was doing. He was counting 7 leaves.
Nothing much.
Yeah.
Okay. Before we end, I just want to, the issue of youth unemployment in Kenya. I'm not even sure how many jobs were created last year, but are you optimistic about any job creation this year?
They'll create job for campaigners, for bloggers.
So that's actually a good thing.
No.
It is a good thing if you're
I'll tell you why it's a bad thing. Sometimes when you repeat a lie too much, you might start believing in your own lie.
Yeah.
Can you imagine SHA is not working? Then they decide to hire affordable bloggers to tell us that SHA is working. Those people will say so many times it's working until they start believing in their own lie. And then they get surprised when they go to hospital and they are sick. So sometimes some of the jobs that they want to give our young people are not the best jobs, because they don't land them where we'd want them to be. And those people now become certified professional liars. They just tell us lies and nothing but lies and propaganda, trying to shape public opinion about things that we have already formed an opinion about.
So you don't see much happening in terms of...
In terms of youth employment, I just see them getting us into blogging and into pikipikis following them where they are campaigning and being told, Pangeni line, then being given useless money there. And I call it useless because someone gives you 500 shillings. In the next 5 years, if you divide, that's 100 bob per year. It's less than 30 cents per day. So it's useless money.
Whoa. Yeah. Okay. I think I am optimistic about 2026. I am looking forward to more conversations, more growth, expansion of even the democratic space for Kenyans and everyone who wants to express themselves. And actually just have more guests here for more conversations.
Oh, yes.
And of course, we will have you several times, obviously.
Thank you for the advance invitation.
If you do not become a blogger also. You might also become a blogger of DCP, and now we can't have
don't want to
sober
do that
conversations.
Kind of work. I want us to have honest conversations and truthful conversations.
Yeah. All right. So thank you very much. Maybe your I don't want to call them closing remarks because it's just the beginning of the year, but a word of hope or encouragement to people as the year begins.
I think to everybody, Fanya Mambo wishes you a very prosperous, happy 2026. I want you to be measured in your New Year resolutions. Make those that you think you can be able to achieve. You'd rather surprise yourself by doing more than what you had planned to achieve than, have things that frustrate you as you try to do them. And then also in 2026, we wish Kenya peace, because in an environment that lacks peace, you're not able to do much. So all the best to everybody. God bless you. God bless the work of your hands. God go before you in 2026. God stay with you in 2026. And God usher you into 2027.
Amen.
Yeah.
Hey, preacher man, right there.
Asante.
All right. Thank you so much for you who's been watching. I know it's January. There's a lot of talk around what January is and is not. But as he said, keep your hope alive, keep optimistic, and be focused in whatever you do. I am sure by the time the year heads towards March, April, May, first quarter, you will have achieved something. Work on those resolutions like never before. Go to the gym as you promised us at the beginning of the show.
Yes.
And we will remind you as the year goes,
Oh,
because
yes,
we can see the frame.
Yes.
We'll be one of the students of Americs.
Yeah.
So thank you for watching. Happy 2026.